What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael and welcome to FudgeMuppet. Here at FudgeMuppet, we've been playing a lot of the Outer Worlds to come up with a variety of character builds for you to play, and in the process of doing testing in multiple playthroughs, we've become a lot more aware of what could have been improved or implemented differently. Today we'll be discussing 5 missed opportunities in the game, but by no means do I think the Outer Worlds is a bad game, but like any game, I also don't think it's perfect. I enjoyed almost every moment of my first playthrough. However, after these additional playthroughs, I can point out quite a few desires of mine that were left unfulfilled, desires I'm sure you'll share. So sit back and relax and don't worry about protecting yourself, because I'm here to unleash explosives and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of explosives. Wait, what? Well, that's the thing. There is no explosives skill in the Outer Worlds. There are absolutely no throwable explosives, and there are a very limited number of explosive weapons. As a result, explosives are the first missed opportunity on our list. I knew something was missing from the combat, and it was the throw grenade button all along. Personally, I think that adding more firepower, more kabooms, would have made a space adventure that takes you out of this world a lot more epic. I wish on my board-siding playthrough that I could have mounted an MSI-sponsored assault on the iconoclasts in Amber Heights, charging at the front lines with a rocket launcher and a handful of frag grenades, but there just wasn't enough Michael Bay to be had. It's not like explosives would have detracted from the game or made things too easy, you just have to make them and their ammunition scarcer and rarely give them to some enemies to even out the playing field. Unless we've missed something after hundreds of hours of playtime, there are only 2 explosive weapons in the game, the grenade launcher and the plasma launcher, and they both come under the heavy weapons category. The grenade launcher is one of Felix's favorites, and as you'd expect, it fires a grenade projectile that explodes on contact, dealing area damage. The plasma launcher lobs a big ball of plasma which also deals splash damage and can be charged up. The more you charge, the more you increase the size of the projectile, and as a result the amount of damage it deals and the splash radius it has. I know the gloop gun has area damage too, but it feels more like a Cartoon Network gun and less like an explosive weapon. I just wish there were types of rocket launchers, grenades of all damage types. I mean, can you imagine in addition a 6th science weapon and it's a handful of wacky grenades that are forever gone once you finish using them? Even landmines, actually. There were mines in the game that you can take damage from, but you couldn't actually set any down yourself. Maybe you want a playstyle where you lay down some mines and then shoot at a nest of mantisaurs and have them run towards you and get blown into a collection of insectoid mess. You get the idea. Explosives were fun in other RPGs like Fallout and feel like a missed opportunity for the Outer Worlds. The second missed opportunity on this list is a quick one, and it's being able to look at ourselves in third person. When I play series like Fallout or The Elder Scrolls, I love to be able to look at my character. When I find an awesome piece of armor, I want to admire it while I walk through the amazing world around me. I love playing in first person too, usually with ranged combat, but for those longer moments when I'm simply traveling and not in combat, or sometimes for melee fighting, third person is sensational. In the Outer Worlds, I would often be pleasantly surprised if I went AFK and returned to find the camera automatically doing circles around my build. I finally got to see myself existing in the game world, wearing that cool helmet, holding that fancy gun, instead of just seeing it in the character menu screen. I love the feeling of being able to see my character how other NPCs would, and I think it really helps you get a sense of how you fit into the world aesthetically. It lets you feel out your vibe, and you can kind of make an assumption in your head of how your character would be perceived by others. In a nutshell, third person is really cool, and I think we all wanted it. Moving on, we have missed opportunity number 3, and we've got another skill and weapon related one, hand to hand. Fallout New Vegas gave me a habit of calling weapons related to your fists unarmed weapons, but after making many YouTube videos for the channel, I know if I say that, then there will be 100 comments saying, how can you be unarmed and have a weapon? So, hand to hand. It's not a make or break feature for the game, but it's definitely something you can appreciate being included. I'm not going to say I fully support the Outer Worlds skill system, but you've got to admit that a hand-to-hand skill would fit in with it perfectly, as it would just slot under melee and then get leveled up as you select this skill category, enhancing it alongside one-handed and two-handed until one of the skills reaches 50. You could have cool power and sweep attacks, and of course the tactical time dilation location hit effects that the other melee skills have. As you get a higher skill, perhaps you increase your hand-to-hand speed, and when you're a master, you gain an accelerating chance to stagger opponents points if you stream consecutive hits together. Now that's just me spitballing a rough template, but you can see how it could fit in just as well as one-handed and two-handed. Here are some theoretical examples of weapons: spiked knuckles, a mantiquine gauntlet, some sort of corporation-sponsored boxing gloves, a makeshift power fist, a plasma gauntlet that looks similar to a Deathclaw gauntlet from Fallout 4, but the spikes are made from the same material as an Inferno scythe. You get the idea. They're not necessarily the most realistic weapons, but neither are some other melee weapon options already in the game. I'd love to know what you think in the comments section below, but I would have loved to punch someone's head off with a mechanized fist in my Outer Worlds playthrough. The fourth missed opportunity on our list is that there were planets left unexplored. Mind you, this wouldn't feel like as much of a missed opportunity if the Outer Worlds wasn't a short game. I enjoyed every moment of my first playthrough, but once you've played it multiple times, you get a much better sense of how quick it can be and how there should have been more to do. One of the planets we could have gone to is Hephaestus. Hephaestus is the closest planet to Halcyon's sun and was claimed by the Hephaestus Mining Company as they were the first corporation to establish outposts there. We don't know a lot about the planet apart from the fact that this mining conglomerate runs it, and it's said to be volcanic. Another thing to note, which you do learn of if you do the early retirement district quest in Byzantium, is that a display states each month hundreds of thousands of workers apply to the early retirement program from across the Halcyon system. This doesn't just include workers on Terra 2, but those who live on Groundbreaker or Hephaestus as well. So regardless of whether or not this planet looks like something from Mustafar from Star Wars, or if it's much more inhabitable, say it's just rocky with bits of lava here and there, we still get an idea that there's probably plenty of people living on this planet. Now I know what you're thinking, perhaps DLC for the Outer Worlds will take us to Hephaestus. Well, it definitely could, but I think given the length of the base game, we would have appreciated more content to begin with, and then extra DLC later on top. Interestingly, Scott, who runs the channel with me, has a bit of a conspiracy theory regarding the iconoclasts. He said to me, maybe there were time constraints for game development and the iconoclasts were actually meant to be a faction of disgruntled miners rebelling against the corporations on Hephaestus. It would make sense considering they're all wearing pieces of Hephaestus Mining Company armor, and it would fit the vibe of such a planet really well, but maybe there wasn't enough time, so they were just added into Monarch. Of course, it's just a fun theory he came up with, but obviously not being able to go to Hephaestus and having the game be a tad short makes one begin to wonder about things like this. Groundbreaker, Byzantium, and Roseway are all pretty small areas. There's not a whole lot on Scylla either. Monarch and Emerald Vale are definitely the main areas of exploration, but given the game length, I just feel like there was room for at least one other Monarch-sized planet, sized in terms of exploration and things to do. And the final missed opportunity on our list was experiencing the corporations of the board in more depth. The board definitely has more room to be explored in future DLC, and I'd hope this is the case, but just in the base game, it feels like things weren't as fleshed out as they could have been. The board wasn't really presented to players as an actual board of companies with separate interests and ambitions, and was more like an evil poster child for extreme capitalism. Obviously, the ambitions of any of the corporations is to make money, but it should go beyond that. Where people long for money, they usually desire power, and it would be cool to be able to help different corporations with their various agendas and really see the cultures behind them. We could learn which corporations are more by the book and generally less morally bankrupt, and then uncover which corporations border on pure evil. We do meet the CEO of UDL because it's Chairman Rockwell, who is also the head of the board as a whole, and we know his aims, but the other big players are kind of just in the background. Rizzo's, for example, are a huge food and beverage corporation, but they basically just have an abandoned lab on Monarch, and we know what kind of goods they produce, but that's pretty much it. We get to do some quests involving Auntie Cleo's and a dodgy research lab on Roseway, which was neat, but it's not like we ever meet her, or if she's not alive, meet whoever's really in charge. Sanjar from MSI was a pretty good character, and more examples of highly characterized corporation leaders would have added more flavor to the game. We just don't really get to meet many of the Mark Zuckerbergs and Jeff Bezoses, if you know what I mean. Obviously, it's not realistic to meet every big CEO if we're just doing freelance work for them, but it would be better if we could really get involved with each corporation and really be able to help them with their unique interests and therefore eventually interact with the leaders. We also couldn't really change much about the board. We know that Sanjar really wanted to get MSI back on the board, and I would have loved to actually have seen that play out and be able to help him do so, and then under his guidance, begin to sway other corporation leaders into changing the direction of the board and so on. Overall, the board is painted as one big baddie, and the missed opportunity was that we didn't get to dive deeply into the inner board politics or experience the strong characterization of the different corporations. And that wraps up 5 missed opportunities in the Outer Worlds. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. What did you think was a missed opportunity? Thank you so much for watching the video and supporting the channel. If you want to help support us more, our Patreon is linked in the description, along with our social media links if you're interested. My name is Michael, thanks again for tuning in, and I look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.